Hello, these are artificial intelligence-generated voices, but the words read were created solely by humans using artificial intelligence for some of the writing, as well as Microsoft's Clipchamp to generate the voices and the podcast recordings.
Welcome back to our podcast series on the critical functions that support communities during disasters. I am Mike Prasad from the Center for Emergency Management Intelligence Research, and today, we're diving into Emergency Support Function Number 9, or ESF Number 9, which focuses on search and rescue. While this is a vital aspect of any disaster response, it becomes even more complex when children are involved. To discuss the unique challenges and solutions, Patricia Frost, Vice Chair for the National Pediatric Disaster Coalition, joins me. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Children are especially vulnerable during disasters, and the search and rescue efforts meeting their needs in disaster response operations can be challenging.
Absolutely. As an emergency manager, I've seen firsthand how difficult it can be to locate and rescue children during disasters. Children's behaviors, especially in stressful situations, can complicate rescue operations, whether it's a flood, wildfire, or building collapse. They might hide because they're scared, or they may not follow instructions during a rescue.
Right, and that's because young children often don't understand what's happening. They might not recognize that rescuers are there to help them, and their natural response is often to hide or stay silent, which makes them harder to find. Children with behavioral disorders or disabilities, such as those on the autism spectrum disorder, can be even more at risk because they may react in ways that rescuers do not expect.
In speaking with search and rescue teams, they find themselves having to search attics, closets, and even crawl spaces because kids were so scared that they ended up hiding from rescuers. And with children with autism, they might even run from rescuers if they're overwhelmed by the noise or lights. When rescue teams know how children may react when separated from their families, they can be trained to handle them with care.
Exactly. For children with autism or other disabilities, stimuli like loud sounds, flashing lights, or strangers in uniform can be overwhelming. Responders need to approach the situation with extra patience and awareness. We can't just expect children to respond the same way adults would. Training to recognize these behaviors and using calming tactics can make all the difference in a rescue.
And that's where both education and practice come into play for responders. Emergency drills that incorporate children in various scenarios, especially children with disabilities, help rescuers become more adept at handling these situations. But preparation also extends beyond the responders. Parents and caregivers have a big role here too. I have worked with centers for independent living and advocacy groups for children with neurodiverse concerns, as partners for exercises and training for first responders. Family members really want the first responders to know what to do right by their kids.
Absolutely. And parents also have an important role in preparing their children, in case they become separated during a disaster. Children should be taught their full name, parents' full name and address as early as possible. Parents should ensure schools and childcare locations have contact information and know what the plan is if those sites have to evacuate before parents and their children can be reunited. Rescue workers will need this contact information as well.
Welcome back. And that was a great point. In emergency management, we always emphasize the importance of family communication as part of their emergency plan. Still, people often overlook the critical step of preparing children for what to do during an emergency. Parents can help by having a recent photo of themselves and their child to assist in identification and speed up reunification efforts during or after a disaster. Let's take a moment to also note there are different protocols involving unaccompanied minors as well, especially what rescuers do with those kids once they bring them to a safer location.
Yes, while intact families with children can be dropped off for possible medical care, and then brought to a shelter or reception center, unaccompanied minors, kids by themselves at any age between 0 and 18, depending on the laws in that jurisdiction, need to have some type of temporary custodial transfer happen. It's not just scoop drop and go back for more. Before the next disaster, urban search and rescue teams need to go through the training and exercises, even if they are just workshops, on how to search for and to rescue children.
You keenly noted some of the search issues related to kids on the autism spectrum, and we will include some more background material in the podcast's notes. What are some other factors that are different for the search process, as it relates to kids?
Well, as we all hopefully know during a disaster, time is everything. Let's not forget the crucial risk of exposure to the elements. Children are more vulnerable to extreme heat, cold, or even floodwater because their bodies don't regulate temperature like adults.
Good info on the search side, Pat. Anything else about how a rescue of a child might be different than rescuing an adult?
Well, one thing is the size of a child can be a factor, just as it is for medical triage and treatment. Some helicopter baskets may not have the safety belts in the right positions for a child. Do the rescue boats contain child-sized life preservers on them? What about infants and toddlers who need rescuing?
And from an emergency management perspective, we always emphasize collaboration. Search and rescue teams, medical personnel, and logistics experts must coordinate their efforts so that their care continues seamlessly once children are rescued. It's all about planning ahead, ensuring we have the right resources in place and that teams are trained to act swiftly and effectively.
That's right. We need a coordinated effort that keeps children's unique needs at the forefront of our search and rescue operations. The more we train, prepare, and collaborate across sectors, the better we can protect our youngest and most vulnerable during disasters. And I will say, you and I definitely do not have all the possible questions related to this topic. The point is for continuous improvement by all, and we welcome feedback from professionals, including search and rescue professionals, to make this material, even these podcasts, better for everyone.
Absolutely. I hope today's discussion helps highlight the importance of both preparation and response when rescuing children during emergencies. Parents, responders, and emergency managers all have roles to play in ensuring children's safety. Thanks again, Pat, for your insights.
And thank you, Mike, as well. And here is a friendly reminder that these social media posts can be found on the NPDC's website, which is also included in the notes for this podcast episode. We know that social media provides a unique environment for emergency management professionals to engage with public-private organizations, nonprofits, and influencers aligned with vulnerable populations, including children. We would love social media influencers, public health groups, and emergency management public information officers to co-opt these messages, amplify them, and more. There is also the opportunity for college/university communications majors to use these messages as public service announcement creation projects, further refining, revising, maybe even translating into other languages, and enhancing our material for everyone's benefit. If you visit the QR code with these posts, you will get to all these opportunities.
Thanks again for that info, Pat. Next up is episode 10, which is on ESF number 10, hazardous materials. Thanks for listening, and remember to please use the hashtag PrEP for the kids in any posts or reposts you use, which reference our material.
Please visit us on the web at npdcoalition.org. Our vision is to support the development of a unified medical and health emergency management community to prepare, respond, and recover from emergencies and disasters.